what is this place?
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you guys so much for stopping back by to check out this week's episode of Chili Dog Corner Indie Game Reviews. This week's episode, we will be reviewing Call of the Sea. Call of the Sea is a first-person adventure puzzle game developed by Out of the Blue Games, and it received a BAFTA nomination for debut game. You can find it free to play with an Xbox Game Pass subscription, or you can download it on Steam or PlayStation. As always, we will be breaking this review down into 3 parts where we will focus on story, gameplay, as well as art and music. Starting with the story aspect of the game, I will say that this game has the potential to be a literary masterpiece. I've seen numerous online discussions that I read before downloading the game to see if I wanted to play it, where people have compared the content of the story to the likes of H.P. Lovecraft. The story is mostly narrated by and focuses around Nora Everhart. Nora is a woman who is slowly dying from a painful and incurable disease that causes her to go insane or go mad, and it causes like these spots on her hands. So her husband Harry is an archaeologist, and he sets out on this expedition to a mysterious Polynesian island to search for a remedy to the disease that plagues his wife Nora. When Harry and his crew suddenly vanishes, Nora decides to set out around the world on an adventure of her own to find her husband. As the game progresses, you unlock the mystery behind Nora's disease, her madness, and the island itself.
What a lovely flower offering.
Throughout the game, Nora discovers so much about herself, and she becomes empowered to make the decision of a lifetime. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers, but there are 2 alternate endings from which the player can choose from, and the choice ultimately lies in what you, the player, have taken away from the gaming experience. So some may take away the message of a tenacious and enduring love, while others may take away a love of self that can only be found through self-discovery. I really appreciated the alternate endings, but I was kind of dissatisfied because the depth of the story lied mostly in the love between Harry and Nora, whereas I would have preferred the story, the hours to be spent on like the lore and the history of the island, because like I said, I mean, this game could easily be a 600 or 700 page novel that I would flock to the store to purchase, But I was kind of dissatisfied because it was focused, I felt like, too much on the love between Harry and Nora, whereas I could see so much more potential in just focusing on the island in Nora herself. So that doesn't really stem from a failure on the creative, but more so because maybe the game was so good that I just felt like I needed more. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and give the story aspect of this game a review score of 8 out of 10.
There's a symbol inside.
We're going to move right along into gameplay, and I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way. It is very reminiscent of LA Noire in the sense of it's set in like a 1920s to 1940s era of time. The way that you interact with objects, you can pick them up, you can zoom in to read the lettering on the back of the objects, you can zoom in for more detail, say if you like picked up a knife, you could zoom in and you could see the rust on the knife. So in that way, it is very reminiscent of L.A. Noire. However, there aren't dialogue options in the way that there is like in L.A. Noire. So, but the level of detail really works well to fully immerse the player into the game. The puzzles were extremely difficult. I mean, you had to pay attention to everything, every little detail, murals, objects, letters, you name it. And you had a journal which you wrote all of these, I guess you want to call them clues, if this were a detective game. You wrote all these little clues into this journal, and you could pull it up once you got to the final puzzle so that you could move on to the next chapter of the game. But once you did figure out the puzzles, it was a
These
very
levers
rewarding
connect those
experience.
gears to direct the wheel's energy
But some
into
of
the
them
turbine.
were very abstract, and you had to get really creative and think outside of the norm, which, when I think of it, works really well with the art style of the game. There were a total of 34 achievements, along with secret objects that were riddled all throughout the game. There was a total of 6 chapters, I believe, so you play through each chapter of the game. But Call of the Sea, it really is true to its genre. If you come to Call of the Sea looking for
easy.
puzzles and adventure, you're absolutely going to get it. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It didn't really get a 10 out of 10 for me because sometimes the puzzles were very out there. There are multiple times I'm like, what the F does that have to do with anything? But I guess that's just part of the experience. So we're going to move into art and music. And the reason I wanted to review this game so bad was because of the art style. There were so many moments that embodied the art movement surrealism. So within like 5 minutes of the game, at the beginning, you jump into this pool of water and you're swimming through and you're looking around and it's mysterious, you don't know, and then you see like this clock and it's suspended in the water on this rock just floating around, and immediately I thought of The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali, and ever since then I was just hooked, because of the art style. And my favorite scene in the game is a moment where Nora is walking through a dried ocean, so it's like a desert landscape, and there's just a bed just sitting there, in the middle of this desert, and it really kind of filled me with excitement. I'm actually might have a photo, like a screen capture of that moment, like of the bed, if I can pull it up. There we go. But it was so incredibly illogical, and the way that the wind brought movement to the imagery as if the background was melting was very representative of Nora's madness. And you could analyze that moment for, hours if you wanted to. But there was so much depth in that scene, that stage, while Nora's in the desert in general, that really just made the game for me. It was very Freudian, she's having these flashbacks, like repressed memories or something, So I would suggest to play the game simply because of the art style, because it truly is an experience. The music was haunting at times, but haunting in a comforting way. Like there's a music box that Nora's mother has given her, and the music that it plays is like a little mermaid going around in a music box, and the music that it plays is just so haunting and adds an element of suspense to everything that is going on. When the story called for drama, the music was dramatic. When the story called for relief, the music was relieving. And when the story called for excitement, the music just complemented it in every way that it was supposed to. It did a very good job of complementing what was happening in the story. So because of the art style, I'm just going to give art and music a 10 out of 10. Absolutely. So going into my personal opinion about this game, I would say if you are seeking adventure and maybe you're stuck in the house or you just want to be stuck in the house, I would suggest Call of the Sea. It is very true to its genre. It fills the player with excitement. It gives them a sense of accomplishment when they go through all of these puzzles. And the story does work very well, even though I wanted more of it. But overall, this game is going to get a 9 out of 10. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave this week's charity in the dialogue box if any of you want to donate. And stay tuned because next episode we will be reviewing Raji, an Ancient Adventure. We'll see you guys next time.
No.